Good morning, everyone. My name is Allison Earhart, and I am joined by my team, Daniel Gober and Olivia Anvik. And we had the pleasure and opportunity to work with North Willamette Valley Habitat for Humanity. So before we really get going, we're going to give you a brief overview of what we're going to talk about this morning. We're going to cover who Habitat for Humanity is, what they do, a brief situational analysis, our project goals, our data, and then finally the fun stuff, which is our recommendations and our financial impact. To give you a better idea of who Habitat is, we have a video for you. Maybe.
No matter who we are or where we come from, we all deserve to have a decent life. We deserve to feel strength and stability day after day. We deserve to know we have the power to take care of ourselves and build our own futures. At Habitat for Humanity, this is what unites us. Through shelter, we empower, because you, me, we're all humans, and every single one of us deserves a fair shot. Donate or volunteer today.
So as you can see, Habitat is an amazing organization. Here's their mission statement. Seeking to put God's love into action, Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Then there's their vision. It's a world where everyone has a decent place to live. As we saw in the video, that's what Habitat strives to do. They believe that everyone, no matter their age, gender, or ethnicity, no matter where they've come from or where they're going to be, that everyone deserves a decent place to live. Next, we have our service area. As you can see with the red circle, North Willamette Valley Habitat services this area east of I-5 from Oregon City to Canby, Woodburn, Jervis, Scotts Mills, Silverton, Aurora, and Molalla. A closer look at that. Now in the past to date, Habitat for Humanity has constructed 42 homes in their service area. That's 42 homes for 42 families who didn't have a decent place to live. They've also completed 15 Rehabitat projects. Rehabitat is a program that helps those who are unable to perform maintenance on their own homes. So they could be elderly or disabled. They could need a new water heater, a new air conditioner, or a new roof. And Habitat has done 15 of these. Additionally, they are averaging 1 to 2 home builds every year. Before we could make any recommendations, we had to analyze their current state. We've already mentioned home builds and Rehabitat. They have a third service called the Restore. The Restore is an upscale version of a thrift store. Gently used home goods and home appliances are donated and then resold to the community at an affordable cost. It's run by volunteers, and all of the profits go straight back to Habitat, so that's great. Next, their current target market. So as a nonprofit, Habitat relies mainly on donations and fundraisers as their source of income. In 2014, they received approximately $87,000 from this. Currently, they have strong partnerships with churches in their area as well as local businesses because Habitat makes a point of buying locally. So for instance, if there's a home build going on in Jervis, they make sure to buy all those building supplies right in Jervis. We feel that this is very, very proactive because it involves the communities that these families are from. Next, we looked at their social media presence and their website. For social media, we found that the platform they utilized the most was Facebook. They've done a great job of posting regularly and posting very engaging content that either showcases the national Habitat brand or what they're doing in the community. Lastly, the thing that we're really, really excited about is the website. Recently, as in the past 2 weeks, North Willamette Valley Habitat has had their website completely redone, and it looks absolutely amazing. We're really excited about this, and we're very excited to see where they're going with it. We're going to further break this down for you, and Olivia is now going to cover our situational analysis.
Thank you, Allie. With our situational analysis, we've identified 2 groups that have historically partnered with Habitat, as well as 1 new avenue that Habitat can explore. The first of this is the churches. There are over 100 churches in the area that North Willamette Valley serves, 99 of which have given to Habitat in the past. Habitat also has a very unique relationship with the local businesses, like Allie mentioned before. They make a point to only buy from the businesses in the area. That way, they're supporting the community in which they're building the home. The avenue that we want them to focus in on, and we're really excited about, is the high schools. Nationwide, there are high schools that have Habitat for Humanity clubs, and the students that are involved in these clubs help Habitat by fundraising and participating in the home builds. This helps with their outreach and their funding. In the area of their service, there are 7 high schools, but only one of these high schools has a club. So there are about 6,500 students that Habitat can reach. From our meeting with our client and the research that we've done, our team has come up with a project goal to increase community awareness and generate revenue. We plan on doing this through 3 target markets: businesses, churches, and schools. And Daniel's going to come and talk about the recommendations for each of those.
Thank you. Our recommendations can be broken down into a few things. First, we want to re-engage the existing relationships with the churches and businesses. We're going to do this through a few things such as sending a bi-monthly newsletter with a specific call to action. That way we keep the churches and businesses involved and engaged with what is going on in Habitat. We're also going to attack the new market of the high schools, and we're going to do all these things through a local college students as a community relations intern. The first market is the churches. There's over 100 churches in the service area that North Valley Habitat serves. 99 of them have given in the past, but most of them have been one-time donations. We want to reestablish the prior relationships with the churches. According to the Harvard School of Business, studies show that 25 to 65% of dormant customers will be receptive to reconnect and regenerate business. Also, simply increasing retention rates by 5% increases profits by 25 to 95%. So we see a huge possibility here if we can reestablish the connection with the churches and also the businesses. We're going to do this through a variety of things like the newsletter mentioned, but also engaging in the youth groups. One of the problems that Habitat brought to us was that the younger generation is not as involved as they would like to be. So by getting youth groups to come out and sponsor builds, sponsor Rehabitat projects, and just be overall more engaged with the company, we see a huge opportunity here for Habitat to be connected with churches. Next is the businesses. As mentioned, Habitat buys 100% of their products from local businesses. That means that when they do a project build in Canby, the local Ace hardware store is where they get their wood, their nails, so on and so forth. So in order to strengthen the business partnership, we're going to do a few simple things that Habitat can utilize, such as Proud Partner decals shown here. This will be placed in every single storefront window so that when you walk into your Ace Hardware, your Home Depot, whatever the stores that they're partnering with, you see the Proud Partner sticker right there. The next thing is the box drives. When you walk up to the register, a small box will be placed at every register with Habitat for Humanity's logo and an opportunity to give. These are small things that the community can see, that they can be engaged with. Also, having businesses come out and sponsor builds, rehabitats, so on. But the objective that we're really excited about is the high schools. This is the primary objective for the project. We want to capture the high school age group and successfully integrate them into the program. The Coles College of Business conducted an in-depth survey of Habitat for Humanity. 83% of their respondents were high school to college-age kids in over 1,000 respondents, which is exactly our target market. They found that 94% of this age group has participated in volunteer work. 92% has heard of Habitat for Humanity nationwide. 84% said that they would volunteer, and 75% said that they would donate. As you can see, the younger age group is willing and is able to donate and to support Habitat for Humanity. With 6,500 students in the service area, we want to do 2 things. Start high school clubs and do the charity drive. First thing is the charity drive. Tillamook High School composed a charity drive for Dornbecker's Hospital. It's a 10-day event that they use to raise money for local charities, Dornbecker in specific. And the last year they raised almost $200,000 between the less than 700 students. That means each student raised approximately $300 for local charities. Tillamook only has 5,000 people in its entire county. The reason why we're so excited about this is because North Valley has 6,500 students and approximately 70,000 people in their service area. That's 14 times the size of Tillamook. By using a similar model that Tillamook set in place, we see a great opportunity to not only raise money for Habitat for Humanity, but to benefit the entire community as a whole. Now, the way that Tillamook did this is that they gave the students the power to choose the events, plan the fun that would be going on within the 10 days. They did some very basic things like car washes, bake sales, but then they got a little more exciting. as you can see, that's a student on a donkey. One of the favorite events they do every single year is called donkey basketball. They literally bring in donkeys into the gym, and they have a full basketball game where the students get on donkeys and they play each other. There's a 50-50 raffle at halftime, paid admission at the door, and all the proceeds go directly back to Dornbecker's Children's Hospital and the local charities. All the events that are done here are done by the students, and they make the entire community excited to give back to the charities. What North Willamette Valley's charity competition would look like would be a school versus school charity competition because they have more than one high school in the area. We have contacted all 7 high schools. 6 of them said that they are interested. 3 of them are ready to commit. And for each year, we will add 1 school until every single school is competing inside the industry. In order to incentivize the students, we're setting up a scholarship fund with 25% of the proceeds going back to the students and scholarships for the seniors. In year 1, we'll have Silverton versus Mount Angel. They're very close to each other, and it can be a nice rivalry that's set up. And the more competition, the more success is breeded. Now to Olivia to talk about the financial aspects.
So no project is without costs, and this is true for our project as well. We've identified 3 different costs that will come from our recommendations. They are the window decal, the training of the intern, and the intern's wages. Now, the fundraising costs will not be incurred by Habitat. Those will be dealt with the students in the clubs and in the communities. So we didn't worry about those. But this pie chart shows the prices and how they break down. The first price we have is the decal, which is less than $400. This is for an order of 1,000 decals, so it's a relatively cheap way to get more awareness in the community. And it will be incurred every 3 years due to the durability of the decals. Our second cost is that of training and hiring an intern. Like we mentioned before, one of our recommendations is for Habitat to hire a community relations intern from one of the colleges around the North Willamette Valley area. This intern will help with maintaining the contact between the schools and the businesses and the churches, as well as maintaining the social media and the website. So we found this cost of $2,000 from the opportunity cost that would take for an employee of Habitat to take time out of their schedule of doing their normal duties and train and hire an intern instead. So we calculated that by taking the average amount of time that it takes to find and hire and train an intern by the average nonprofit employee hourly rate. And that came to $2,000. The most expensive cost that we have is paying the intern. Like I mentioned before, the intern is going to be working to maintain the relationships with the community, as well as the social media and web design. So we wanted to give them some of a compensation for the work that they're going to do, because we realize that they will need gas money to get to and from Mount Angel, where Habitat is located, as well as the worth that they are to do those jobs. So we plan on paying them a salary of $12 an hour for a 20-hour work week. In total, the annual cost is about $14,000. Now that we've talked about the costs, we can talk about the fun stuff, which is the income. Now, we figured out the income that it's mostly generated from the fundraising events that the high schools will do. Like Daniel said before, last year, Tillamook raised $200,000. And with less than 700 students, that comes to about $300 each student. So each student brought in $300 worth of donations, which is incredible. Now, we realize that that's been going on for over 50 years, so it'll take some time before that gains traction in the area in which North Willamette Valley Habitat serves. So our estimate is that in the first year that a school is participating in the charity drive, it will bring in $5 per student in donations and an increase in $5 per subsequent year. So, for example, in the first year, Silverton will bring in $5 per student. In the second year, $10 per student. In third year, $15, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, we're adding a new school each year, so you can see why the profit increases so substantially. Because in year 1, we only have Silverton and Mount Angel competing, but by year 6, we have all 7 schools in the district competing against each other and bringing in funds. So you can see in year 1, we have an income of $5,000, but by year 6, we have an income of over $94,000, which is very impressive. This chart shows the net profit, so our costs taken from the income that we have. In our first year, we will have a net loss of about $9,000 due to all of the costs associated with the intern. But we will break even by year 2 and have a net profit of $1,500. And by year 6, we can have a profit of $80,000, which is a 90% increase from the profit that they had from donations in 2014. Now that we've seen how the financial impact of the recommendations that we have, Daniel is going to give our final deliverables.
As you can see, there's a huge opportunity here for Habitat for Humanity to regenerate business through the churches and businesses, and finally, to establish the high school market. The high school market is an open, untapped market where we can establish clubs and mainly do the charity drive. It's an exciting opportunity that, above all, we hope our recommendations make it possible for Habitat for Humanity to continue fulfilling their vision, a world where everyone has a decent place to live. Thank you. We're now open for questions.
Rob, you have a question?
I do. So a couple of things. You're talking about getting out to the kids in the community. And as far as, first off, by the way, good job. It was a really good presentation. So I'm going to just list off a couple of questions here so I can get them all in there. What is done inside of each community once the project has started to raise awareness in the community, for one? 2, what are roadblocks to getting the younger generation who are interested into the program and get them involved, besides the cost? And then what is the average cost that a Habitat for Humanity house costs? And then I have one more. And what's the duration that the intern would work? So is it 6 months, basically through the school year, and then you have to retrain a new one? Could you address some of those?
Yeah. Let's make sure I get all these. First of all, the cost of the house is between $60,000 to $65,000, depending on the land and the home that they're building. With the students, we actually had a great opportunity to contact Tillamook, and been in contact with Rachel Metcalf, who's the director of their program down there. And she said the number one building block when they started this is the motivation from the students. Once the students get motivation, it's really easy for the community to buy in. The parents donate money, the local businesses, everything buys in once the students buy in. And so with the scholarship fund, and they gave us a few other things to do, really letting the students take over and then compete with each other, they said was the number one way that we can avoid the student involvement problem, essentially. And then the next question was,
let's see, raising community awareness, I think you hit that. Roadblocks, how do you overcome that? And then about what's the duration you're projecting for the intern? Because I know there's a cost associated with that when you train somebody, and you guys touched on that briefly.
Yeah, the cost that we put up there was for the intern's duration of 3 months, but if an intern wants to stay on for longer, then those costs will be minimized. So that was the most that would cost to hire them, if that makes sense. So
the cost was how much again?
About $2,000 per year. Per quarter was about $580 to hire and train.
Okay. Over here.
So when is this intern supposed to be working?
The intern will start working next year. And what
time of year?
Time of year. We'd get the intern from Willamette, from Corbin, from local colleges and schools, and it's as soon as Habitat can get an intern in to come in. And so
I think what I'm going for is, are you planning them to work in the summertime, in the fall, in the winter? When is the prime season for this?
the prime season is the school year. For the high schools. That'll be their number one responsibility. It would be very nice for an intern to stay on longer, but we realize that if we're targeting college students, most likely they won't be here working for the summer. So that's why we added the training costs.
So it's a 3-month commitment from somebody for 20 hours during school season, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any conflict with splitting the revenue between Habitat and the schools or some? Did you look into that?
Do you want to take that? We did. So what Tillamook does is it's primarily for Dornbeckers, and then there's a split. There's 60% of the revenue goes to Dornbeckers, 20% is set aside in a total community charity fund that all the nonprofits apply to, and 20% goes back to scholarships. So those numbers were the ones that Habitat gave us that they wanted to use for the first year, but there will be partnerships that come in with, for instance, SACA, Silverton Area Community Aid, and other charities in the future, but those projections are based off of the 75-25 split that we received from Habitat.
Okay, and lastly, it sounded like you had reached out to all the schools, and you got some amount of buy-in. Who gave you that buy-in? Was that the student body? Was it a principal, administrator? What was the buy-in from?
It was both. It was administration. It was the students that we talked to, student ASB, student body, things like that. Out of, let's see, the 6 schools that we contacted, all of them are interested, and right away we had 3 say, yes, we want to do this. This sounds great. I have 20 kids right now who would love to get involved with this. We'll get more. So.
Since there were 6 communities or 6 schools, did Habitat think of building a home in a kind of a progressive fashion through those communities?
It mostly depends on where the qualified families are. Our goal is to kind of bring all these schools together to build a Habitat community, if that makes sense, and have them competing against each other and have some pride in raising money for this. Because as far as those who are qualified for the homes goes, that just kind of comes on like a need-be basis. Mm-hmm. So they can't say like, oh, Woodburn's fundraising, let's build a house in Woodburn.
Right, but if the students are going to get excited about it, I would think that Tillamook students are really excited because the home is being built in their community. So if you had some type of, I'm just wondering if that had come up to get them excited. I know if it's been a long time since I was in high school, but I think and there were rivalries. This is a good way to bring, a beneficial rivalry together, but you'd still like to see, if you're raising funds in your own community, to see a home built in your own community.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if that was addressed at all.
Right here.
Dave. Sorry. Tony.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the overall mission and goal of Habitat, and did they express a need? They expressed to increase revenue and increase involvement. But what was their overall goal in increasing homes built for people to live in? Did you pull that into your analysis on what you were trying to accomplish by the gained interest and by the gained revenue? In the end, to accomplish their mission, what were you aiming for in number of homes to increase?
We weren't given a specific number of homes that we had to look into increase in being able to build, but with the increased revenue, they should be able to build an additional home every year and do about 2 more Rehabitat projects that they already do. So even though that was a little bit outside of our scope of work, with the increased revenue, it would essentially be able them to double their home production and then also double their Rehabitat production.
Go ahead, Grace.
So my question is just, if you looked into it at Tillamook, I know I live in Kaiser, and the high school there is always doing so many fundraisers for band, for sports, for everything, and it seems like on a weekly basis we have bake sales, or they have partnerships with different, with Papa Murphy's or something, and I'm just wondering if, if it was similar a situation in Tillamook, and they were still able to raise that money, or do they have a different way of funding those sports and things?
I'm not too certain about the Tillamook, about how their fundraising works, but I'm personally from Silverton, and I know that we don't have very many fundraisers that happen, so this would be a new thing for the Silverton community. So that should pique the students' interest because it's not really something that's done in those communities.
Jonathan?
Brilliant presentation. And if I was the director of Habitat, I'd be asking for one of you three as the first intern. But I'm curious, you had some very interesting elements in the project, particularly to do with fundraising and competing against different schools. Where was your fundraising philosophy, or where were you finding your ideas related to fundraising?
They came, first of all, thank you. They came directly from Tillamook's model that they use. And Tillamook has each class compete against each other through the 10 days. And one of the things that they continually said is that if you let the students take it and you let them compete, there's way more success in anything that they've done. So the competition aspect between schools, we chose because it involved the whole community, and especially just because of the rivalries that are built in high schools, we saw it as a wonderful opportunity to be able to raise funds through the competition of schools.
Sorry, one more comment on that. Also, our thought process behind that was with Tillamook, like obviously they've been going for more than 50 years, so it's really, really successful. And we realized that it's not going to have that huge increase in revenue in like the first 2 years, but we didn't want to fix something that wasn't necessarily broken. So we said, okay, here's this great model. We're going to give them a plan to implement this. And in the long run, if it works out, there's going to be a lot of the increase in revenue.